Real or faux? Which way do you go? I'm Kelly Wilkniss here with Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks, episode 385, The Christmas Tree Controversy.
Sounds very festive, doesn't it?
That's a way to get
starting off with
a
spirit. Family fight right in the beginning.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
I wonder if there's inner family fighting over this, or whether, the whole family goes one way and the whole family goes the other way.
I don't know, but it does seem to be something people, I don't know that the faux people are just so outspoken about it, but the people that think you should have the real Christmas tree, they're pretty, they're very vocal about it.
They are very staunch. And I have to say, over the years, I have been fairly staunch real tree person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I
have
surprised.
softened a bit, but I still, we one year we went without any real tree, and my people were not happy. And I have to say, I wasn't happy either.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I've done both. So.
Yeah. Well, it's good to try it all and see what really works for
but,
you.
Yeah. So I'm open to both. I don't think there's a right and a wrong here. So,
No. And what's interesting as we get further in, we'll see that, it's really not that clear cut, which is better in terms of a lot of things. So, yeah. And I hear that you were doing something Christmassy this morning.
Well, I was at the Museum of Fine Art here in Houston putting Christmas trees together. These were the faux kind for the member Christmas party. So,
how beautiful
decor there for the museum. So, yes. So I've actually been up to my elbows in these branches this morning. And it's very cold here in Houston today. So it felt very much, it's very much in the Christmas spirit. So.
Oh, how nice. How appropriate that we're doing this today. I had an interesting afternoon yesterday. I was invited to be part of this grant, which is sending people out to do different types of lectures and tutorials with senior citizens throughout the city of Los Angeles. And so yesterday, I did a holiday craft with a group of seniors in Koreatown, and I had a Korean interpreter, and I had the best time. And what a wonderful group. And, we definitely spoke the language of crafting together. And
well, good.
It was just, and talk about putting yourself in a lovely holiday mood, and, just meeting these really wonderful, warm people. And even though we really couldn't understand each other 100%, without the aid of the interpreter, it was just a wonderful love craft fest by the end of it. So
that sounds
really
like so much fun.
It was so much fun. So I'll be back again to that group in December and a few other groups around LA. So I'm really excited about being asked to be part of that. So today,
the Kelly Craft Show.
The Kelly Craft Show is on the road. So the tree really is the centerpiece of a lot of people's holiday. It's a focal point. It's, excuse the pun, but wrapped in a lot of tradition. And as we're talking today, there is a bit of controversy about what kind of tree you get and what is best. And so we're going to kind of demystify, possibly debunk, and give you some information you may not have had on the choice between a faux and real Christmas tree.
So how about if we start with the faux first? And I don't know if you came across this in your research, but I found that they originated in the 1930s. Did you hear that? Or see that?
I didn't see as far back as the 30s, but I believe that, that they were they became very popular in the 70s, which makes perfect sense to me. Right. But I didn't know they started in the 30s. But maybe, is that when the tinsel tree began?
Well, I don't know if it was tinsel, but what I found online was that it was a company called the Addis Brush Company.
Oh.
And wait for it, they made toilet scrubbers and brushes.
And then we have the bottle brush Christmas tree. Did they invent that?
I don't know.
Because I love them if they did that.
I know, I do too. But the whole, I can barely even say the word toilet. So this may be ruining it for me. I don't know.
We probably shouldn't have started with the fake ones.
I know. It was bad move. But anyway, we've talked about this. I mean, obviously, why go fake? Well, I think one reason you want to go faux is if you want some cost savings, right? Because these are going to last, especially if you keep it for a long time.
Yeah, well, over the course of time, yes. But there are faux trees that are super expensive. So,
True.
if you don't plan to keep it for too long, then, it may not be right away the most economic choice. But of course, yeah, if you're buying a faux tree, that's, maybe a couple $100. Real trees are expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So this is kind of a one and done, at least for a while. There's not a lot of upgrade. It's not like an iPhone where 6 months later it's completely, out of date. So your trees you probably can keep it 10 years, and especially the really nice ones, and it's going to be nice, and it's going to be great and look great for a long time. And the other thing is you're not having to go buy a new one every year. That's another nice thing about the faux trees.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get the real tree in the stand, and you have to worry about watering it and the needle drops. So there's definitely a lot more maintenance during the holiday season to a real tree. So the years that I have done a faux tree, particularly the pre-lit ones, when, now you can sort of like open it like an umbrella, and all of a sudden you have this giant tree, and that is pretty appealing. Yeah,
so, no watering, no needles on the floor. It's you can see why people want these. And then the pre-lit ones, oh my goodness. Yeah, and I have one. Yeah, they're 3 pieces, whereas before each branch you're putting in the the base.
Yeah, when I was little, I grew up with a fake tree, probably because my mother, I think fake trees were really coming into vogue at that time. And my mother probably did not want to be vacuuming up needles. Like, she did not want that mess. But our tree, it was probably from Sears. I don't know. Each year it had like the tips had a little color code on them. So my job would be come out of the box, right? And then I would make the piles, and the baby blue ones, and I remember the pink ones were on the top, the smaller branches, and the white ones. So you'd have I'd have these colored piles, and then my dad would start putting them into the trunk, that was pre-drilled. Yep. And then, but still you had to put all the lights on and everything. And then my mom would do the fluffing. So she would fluff it all out. But, so that's my, suburban childhood memory, where I'm sure, I'm picturing, children in Maine that were going to the tree farm with the rolling hills of snow and sledding up to the perfect tree and dragging it home and putting it up. And, it seems a little more romantic.
Well, if you've listened to any of my childhood stories, I think you can guess there was no real Christmas tree. There was nothing real about
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No. So it was definitely the faux one, probably from Sears, because my dad loved Sears. So yeah, I think we definitely had that. And it really didn't look real at all. So and covered with the tinsel and, all that good stuff. But hey, you know what? I was a kid and I didn't really care. So it worked for me.
So as far as having a real tree and the environment, a faux tree and the environmental impact thereof, well, it's made of PVC with some steel, possibly some copper, making all the branches, stay put. And it's probably coming from China. Most of them that are on the market are made there. So, that's just not a great thing to be chucking into a landfill, because it's going to take a long time. It's going to stay there and not really decompose. But here's the thing. If you buy a good fake tree, you think of it as an investment, and you keep it for upwards 5, 8, 10, 15 years, you're keeping it for a long time, and then you don't have to throw it away. Then you donate it. I know right now, if you go to a thrift store, they have trees there now. It's a wonderful thing for another family to be able to get at low cost. And even at my daughter's school, the music teacher's asking, does anyone have an extra faux tree? He wants to put one in the music room. So there's always going to be someone that you can give a tree to when you're ready to maybe get a bigger one, or maybe you want to downsize and get a tabletop tree or something like that. So don't don't throw it in the landfill. Keep it for a long time if you're going to go faux. Keep it protected. There are those tree bags you can get. Oftentimes, if you buy a really nice faux tree, it comes in its own bag, like a Balsam Hill tree will come in its own zippered bag. Keep it covered. Don't just, my parents had a friend, he was a bachelor, and he had in his house, he literally had a tree, his Christmas tree in the guest room. I guess there weren't a lot of guests, and he would just throw a sheet over it. Oh. And then he would take the sheet off and drag it into the living room at Christmas time. So he never took the decorations off either.
Okay. All right. Well, are you ready to hear the bad news?
Well, yeah, I guess I am.
Well, I feel like we need to know this stuff, but it's kind of like with the mattresses. I found out all this stuff I really didn't want to know about how toxic they were. And guess what? These PVC plastics that you mentioned that are in most all of these Christmas trees, they release dioxins, which are associated with cancer and neurological damage and so many other health issues. So there's really an issue there as far as toxicity goes. So one thing I want you to think about, if you're buying a new tree and you're wanting something that's a little less toxic than the PVCs, you would look for a PVC-free tree. And they are made. Some brands do make them, but I think they're going to be harder to find. So these typically have PE, which is polyethylene, and PP, polypropylene in them. And these are plastics. They're a little bit safer. So, I can't say there's 100% completely toxic free faux tree, but if you're concerned about that, this is the way I would go. And then also you could check to see if there is any lead in them or flame retardants on them, because that's also toxic. So these are some things to keep in mind. But what I wanted to mention too, and I was just handling, after reading all this, then of course I was at the museum, like touching all these trees thinking, oh, you're like, great.
No licking.
Now I know I shouldn't be touching this. And here I am touching it. So one thing I would suggest, if you do have a faux tree, just to protect yourself, put on some gloves when you're assembling your tree. So even though these things are toxic, I think there are some things that you can do to reduce your risk. And one thing is to use gloves when you're setting the tree out and when you're putting the ornaments on it. And then put your gloves back on when you put your tree up. And I know when I got my, I think it was my Balsam Hill tree, it actually came with gloves.
I was just going to say that. Mine came with gloves too. And I think that's great. Also, they're a little prickly, even though they're not real. And so it's nice for your hands to have the gloves on.
Yeah. And then I did want to mention 75% of households in the U.S. have a Christmas tree during the holidays, and 80% of those, according to my research, are fake.
I came upon those same numbers. So the research
Isn't that
must be correct. I know. I would have thought it would be much closer to maybe 60-40, 60 faux, 40 real. But this is another thing I learned about. Where are the clusters of real trees? Northeast, which kind of makes sense because that's,
I'm not through talking about the faux yet.
Oh, no, I'm not in either. But,
okay.
And then on the West Coast, more real trees.
Right.
So in the middle, you're having more of your faux trees.
So that may be why there's so many faux. Maybe there's a lot of the U.S. and other places where they don't really have access to some good Christmas trees. Mm-hmm. So that may be part of it. The other things I wanted to mention as far as the toxicity goes is, if you can, try to keep your kids away from the tree if you have the faux, from touching it. Or maybe if they're helping you with the ornaments, try to get them to wear some gloves. And if you are pregnant, I would not handle the tree.
Well, so you think it's that high? The levels are that high?
Well, I don't know that they're that high, but we are exposed to just thousands of chemicals and toxins that our parents at our age, 50 years ago or 20 years ago or 100 years ago, whatever. The number of chemicals in the environment it's increasing almost exponentially all the time. So it's probably, if this is the only thing you were exposed to, it probably wouldn't be a big deal. But the problem is it's such an additive effect. So I think it's wise to, if you know you're being exposed to some toxins, to just protect yourself, because they're just everywhere.
Well, that's like what you said about the aluminum too. Like in and of itself, it wouldn't be the worst thing if you used aluminum pan, but combined with all the other bits.
So, I mean, yeah, obviously don't go lick it. And if you've been handling it and then you're getting ready to go eat, wash your hands.
Right.
Just common sense. I think it's helpful. So I'm not suggesting that you should not have one of these trees in your house. I don't know that it's that big a deal, but I would just wear gloves and wash your hands before and after, or after you.
Because why not? And honestly, the gloves, I mean, I didn't really use the gloves because I was thinking of toxicity until you now educated us, but it felt nicer, than
it did.
Sticking your hand in the branches, and they're you don't have to have gloves that are like more like garden gloves. You can just have soft gloves, or even little woolly gloves are fine, just thin ones you can use. The thing about these faux trees is currently they're not really recyclable because of the copper, the steel, and the plastics. And how it's all fused together. Each one of those items would have to be pulled apart, and your local trash removal or whatnot, they're not doing that, so they just can't recycle them at this juncture. There's probably somebody somewhere producing a recycled tree, but I was not able to come upon one that was 100% recyclable.
I don't think you're going to find that. So this is just something to, keep in mind. So if you're going to buy one, I think the responsible thing to do is to just plan to keep it for quite a while and not just buy it for a year or two. But really, why would you go to all that effort and spend the money if you're just going to throw it out a year or two later?
Exactly. Well, that begs the question, like, think of it as, can you think of it as an investment item rather than just like, oh, I'm in the CVS. Oh, here's this tree. It kind of looks cruddy. I'm just going to have it for a year. Try not to do that. I mean, certainly if you don't have the money to get a really nice faux tree, then, do what you need to do to decorate your home and make your family happy. But if you can say, this is just, it's an investment piece and I'm going to spend this much money on it and I'm going to keep it for, 10 years. And if I divide what I spend by 10, and it's really that much every year. And it probably is a lot less than a real tree would cost you every year. The thing about the faux trees, as far as their look, now I've had experience with a couple of different types of faux trees, certainly not all the brands, but they are not all created equal. If you can see them in person, that's a really great way to go. But oftentimes you're buying it online. Don't just choose the cheapest one on Amazon because you might not be happy.
And then what are you going to do? You're stuck with it. It's massive. You can't really return it.
Exactly.
And then you're going to want to get rid of it after a year.
Exactly. And, not to say that people are trying to trick anyone, but oftentimes the faux trees that you see either in the advertisements or on blogs. Now, the bloggers are not, trying to trick you or anything. They just want to make their tree look more beautiful. And they probably tell you what they've decorated with. But if you're just looking quickly at the picture, oftentimes the faux trees are enhanced with additional branches. Sometimes the branches that are added are real to fluff it out, or they're using decorative picks, which can be a really nice way to add some volume to a faux tree. These are decorations that are often bigger. Maybe they're comprised of a big loopy kind of bow, or maybe some berries or something. Or I have some ones that are big flowers, like big amaryllis, that are on these long sticks that you just poke into the tree so they don't really hang on a branch again. And that's a wonderful way to fill out a faux tree, because no matter how much you spend on it, no matter, how it's ranked as far as, if you do any sort of Google research on, the best faux trees, the fact is, there's just, you're going to see some holes here and there. And when you see the hole, it's not a tree trunk. It's going to be, maybe a piece of wood or something that's wrapped in green plastic or something. So you may want to fill it out. So keep that in mind. Don't you just love a great recommendation from a friend? Well, we're delighted to be recommending these companies and their wonderful products to you today. And let them know your friends at DTT sent you. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off, yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. But only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months.
Are we ready to talk about the real trees?
I think we are.
Okay.
Oh, well, I do have 2 suggestions. We talked about Balsam Hill as a really great resource for faux trees. So definitely they have a lot of variety and a lot of different price points. But if you're going to go faux, and this is what I did the first year I bought a faux tree, is I went super faux. I was like, if I'm going to get a faux tree, I'm going to go crazy faux. I'm not going to pretend I'm just trying to be a green tree. So I have a platinum colored tree that I put in my kitchen, and I love that tree. It's kind of like the old fashioned tinsel trees, but it's not a Charlie Brown style. It's got a lot more branches, but it's so clearly fake. You know, it's like you're not trying to pretend it's a real Christmas tree.
Yeah, I've got a pink tree.
Love it. Right?
It's really cute. Yeah. I mean, it's a little one. But I love getting it out for Christmas. Yeah. So it's obviously, fake.
Yeah. And mine's big. Mine's, probably 7 to 8 feet tall.
Oh,
and
wow.
I got it from Treetopia, and they have all kinds of colors.
Oh, how fun.
So I'll put the link to that in the show notes.
Okay, great. Well, as for the real trees, obviously, this is the real thing. So you don't have to worry about it looking fake. It's not. It's the real thing. They smell good. They look great. Most of them do. They're recyclable. They just have that natural look because they are natural. So obviously,
they're not faking it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so I think there's a lot of pluses with the real tree.
Yeah. And anybody who's had a real tree and, they know about dragging it into their house. And, I get carried away every time we get a real tree. And I always want to get one that's bigger because it doesn't look so big on the tree lot. And then you try to get it home. So, try to find one that you can definitely fit through your door and find one that you can fit in your stand. Sometimes the trunks are really wide. So look for that. You can have them cut it off and things like that. And we'll go through some of the varieties of real Christmas trees and give you some pointers on choosing one and some characteristics of the trees that, you might want to take into account when you're looking, because, they all look really pretty on the lot and they all smell good when they're all together, but you might want a specific type of tree. The thing about, people say, cutting down a Christmas tree, that's so awful. Because I think in the mind's eye, you're thinking of, the most beautiful, majestic tree in the forest, and somebody just going and hacking it down and dragging it to their house.
It sounds awful. Sure.
It does, but that's really not what's happening. I think very few trees are really cut down in the quote unquote wild. There are tree farms, and trees are grown as a crop, just like corn or anything else. So they're expected to be cut down. You're supporting farmers, tree farmers, if you're purchasing a live Christmas tree. And normally Christmas trees are planted on sort of rolling hills where it's really hard to grow other crops anyway. So this is enabling farmers to grow things and make a living on lands that would not otherwise be, suitable for other kinds of crops. So it takes about 10 years for a tree to get to be about 5 to 6 feet tall, but it's a cycle. So they're planting them, so they're growing and getting cut down, and so having a real tree isn't like just cutting one down out of the forest and having a big hole in the forest. You may be wondering why the real trees seem to have gone up in price in the last couple of years. Well, it's because fewer trees were planted in 2008 during the recession. And so count 10 years from then, when they were mature, there were less of them, right? So around 2018, we started to see these higher prices. And that was also a big shift around that time, in that Christmas season, where people were going faux because they were going to buy a real tree. And it was like, $125 or something like that. And they're like, might as well just get a faux one and have it last.
Yeah. And if you can find, depending on where you live, this might not be possible, but obviously the greenest option, meaning the smallest carbon footprint option for a real tree, is to go with a tree that was grown locally, that was cut down, close to where you live, because then it doesn't have to be shipped in.
Right.
And I found probably the same thing you did, is that the biggest tree farm, there's the states where they grow the most, it's North Carolina and Oregon. Probably California, but I don't think I saw that.
No, not California. It doesn't really get cold here for long enough for, I think, to support the trees. So yeah, we got our trees, the ones that come to my daughter's school. They have a big tree sale to support the school. They all come from Oregon. I know the ones at our YMCA where they sell them, they also come from Oregon. So if you live on the East Coast, then you don't get a tree from Oregon, get a tree from North Carolina. All right. If you can, something that's closer to you. I did see something, and there wasn't a lot of information on it. And I never heard of this, but to rent a real Christmas tree.
Well, I was going to get to that. That's the third option.
Okay.
Yeah. So apparently they bring you the live tree and it's not cut down. You rent it and then it goes back.
Yes. Now, you would definitely want a service for that, because one year I decided that we were going to have a bald Christmas tree. That not in bald like it doesn't have any hair, bald in that it comes with the dirt in burlap, and then you can plant it. Okay. I can't believe that I'm still married after that, or that my dad speaks to me, because Peter and my father, we also had steps to this particular house, carried this tree. I mean, the ball must have weighed like 200 pounds. It's packed dirt. And then the tree on top of it, which was not a small tree. And my dad, I will never forget my dad. He was like, "Oh no, it's fine, Kelly." He was bringing it up the steps, and like one step at a time. And then he stood up, his face, he was bleeding because the needles were sticking in his face. It was awful.
Sounds like it was funny.
It was funny afterwards. But anyway, that tree did go on to live in my yard there until we sold that house, and it was very beautiful. And I really appreciated their efforts, but I would never do that to anyone that I liked. And I certainly couldn't carry it myself.
Yeah, I don't know. This does not really I don't know. It doesn't really sound like the best option, this live Christmas tree. It looks like the prices start around 150. There's two services, livingchristmas.com and rentxmastree.com were two that I found, but I've heard in reading some online reviews, it seemed like some people liked it, some people didn't like it. So I would check into that, and I don't know. That just seems like a hassle. Then you've got to have them come pick it up, and I don't know. That doesn't really sound like an ideal situation.
If you're going to do
either.
a very small tree, then you could get a little live tree and just do a tabletop tree, and then you can plant it in your garden. I think the other thing, and having a big giant ball of dirt in your living room at Christmas time, having lived through it, is not a great idea.
Ball of dirt in your living room.
No matter how big.
How could that go wrong?
Exactly. And then you have to keep watering the dirt and the tree. And so no matter how big your tree skirt is, that is just not something that's going to work for you. But one thing you can do if you have a real tree, without all the dirt, and you want to then recycle it yourself. I mean, a lot of services come and they take it away. Your regular trash service will have a day for that. But every year I cut up the tree, normally because I can't get it out of the house because now it's really stiff and crunchy. I cut off all the branches, at least the big bottom ones, and I lay them in my garden. It is fantastic mulch.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And then in the spring, I pick them up.
And again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news yet again.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know. But some of these Christmas trees have herbicides and pesticides on them. So again, be careful because you're touching the tree.
Don't lick it.
Don't lick it. You might, and the thing is, you might want to use gloves when you're manhandling it, not because there's anything toxic about the tree, but because of the stuff that man puts on it, or people that are taking care of the trees. Mm-hmm. Now, so if you want an organically grown tree, there is a place you can go to look to see if you can find some locally grown ones, or just some that you could have sent to you. Greenpromise.com. They have a website, and we'll include the link, but they have a list of resources where you can get an organic Christmas tree if that's what you want.
That's really good. That's good to know. I mean, I don't know.
It's information.
Yeah. And, and it might be the way that, other tree lots are moving. Once people realize, once, like we've said before, if we kind of vote in a sense with our dollars, and everybody starts to want to have an organic Christmas tree and not anything sprayed, well, then more organic Christmas tree farms will spring up and do well. How about real trees? Let's just talk about a couple of types of real trees that you're likely to encounter at your local tree lot. The balsam fir. Very fragrant. In fact, it is deemed to be the most fragrant tree. It does require a lot of water. So if you're going to be out of town over the holidays, maybe not a balsam fir. A Douglas fir, usually the perfect pyramid and nice and full. Fraser fir, very stiff branches, so great if you have a lot of heavy ornaments, and just also has a nice scent. Now, Nordmann, this was a new one to me last year, and again, it is the type of tree I ordered from my daughter's school this year. It is a very nice symmetrical shape, a very wide base, and I can attest to that. Your trunk is going to be very wide, so you need a big stand for that. And it really does retain the needles. I think it was one of the most beautiful trees we've ever had. We always had noble firs, but the Nordmann is now my go-to.
Nice. Well, and when you're picking them out, you're going to look for the overall shape of the tree, because they're not always symmetrical. Some are going to look better than others. You're going to look for broken branches. Look for insects, because you sure as heck don't want to be bringing a bunch of insects into your house. Yeah, so just check them over. And of course, cut off the end of that trunk before you bring it in so that it can really absorb the water well.
Yeah, a fresh cut is so important. Make sure that they do that for you. I'm excited. Laura and I were talking about putting the Christmas tree up a little bit earlier this year. We are going to put up the silver platinum tree that I told you about. And so she's going to have her friends over for a Friendsgiving dinner.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So we're going to try to get that up before then, because the real tree, you don't want to get it too early, because then it really does dry out. So,
but I think they're cut. It seems like they're cut and then they're delivered. So if you wait closer, the tree's already older.
That's
aged.
Probably true.
It's not like they're getting new trees there.
Yeah.
So it's just been sitting on the lot longer.
That's probably like. True.
Anyway.
Well, we order them from school. So they come on December 7th. That's when it will come.
Well, that is what it is then.
That is what it is. So do you have a crush for us today?
Well, I do. So I just came back from London, and I had so much fun. It was my first time to London, and we've talked about this because I thought I was going to get to go when you were in London, Kelly, but I just now got to go.
Okay, wait a second. I honestly did not know it was your first time.
This was my first. Well, I've been to the UK before, but Scotland.
Right. Okay. Right.
Not London.
Right.
No, and it was interesting. I loved it. And it was just very much what I expected it to be. And I had so much fun exploring the city. And part of the time I was on my own, which was just a total blast because I just kind of got to go and linger. And I kind of called it my tea tour of London because I went and had tea everywhere I could. I bought tea everywhere I could, Harrods, Fortnum and Mason, and, just all these fabulous places. So it was just a delight. Anyway, so when I was there, I was looking for something fun to bring Evie back as kind of a souvenir. And I found this brand that you're familiar with called Cath Kidston, which is available here in the U.S. And I just found some of her things quite charming. And she had some stuff. I guess that's what drew my eye because I was looking for something that, had kind of a London feel for Evie. And she has a whole, I think it's called London View, that's just one of her collections. They're not all like this, but this particular collection has, she sells clothes and raincoats and umbrellas and little, purses and things for your home. But this particular pattern, it kind of reminds me of the drawings from Madeleine, only they're famous things in London, scenes in London, they're hand colored. And so these are all over the umbrellas and things. But so that's kind of what drew me in, but it's definitely not just that pattern. And there's children's things and women's things. And it was just really fun. I enjoyed shopping in that store.
Yeah, her things are a little whimsical, very cheery. It's really darling. I like
very happy.
Yes, very happy. My crush today is I'm sharing a American pianist who I have enjoyed for many years. And I just started listening to him again. Sometimes just I'll think of a song or a musician that I like. And I just love when you say, Alexa, and she finds it and plays it for you. So I have been enjoying George Winston again, and I hadn't listened to him in many, many years. I first discovered him in college, and he is an American pianist, as I said. And I think you'll all really enjoy his work. He has some of his earlier things, autumn, winter to spring, December, summer. So these are the names of some of his albums. So you can get a real sense of what it's going to sound like. And honestly, December just sounds like you're watching the snow coming down. And it's very beautiful. I mean, I don't want to call it background music because that kind of underplays how beautiful his sound is. I think you'll really enjoy it. And he has something that came out fairly recently. And I think he's doing his renditions on the piano of some real classic songs, like even from the Doors to some, musicians from the 30s. It really runs the gamut. So you might want to check out George Winston. He has his own site, and then you could always, of course, just, shout out to Alexa to play it and get a little snippet.
Nice. I'll have to check him out.
Yeah. I think you'd like it. So our question today is from Alicia. Alicia has found us recently, loving the podcast. She heard me talking about those Pier 1 matte black dishes that I was going to incorporate with some of my vintage dishes. And she loves vintage dishes as well.
Oh, me too.
But she was concerned about things she's been reading about the lead. Now, we can always rely on Anita for bringing us all down a little bit. Right? And again, I mean, the other things you normally wouldn't lick, but I mean, I guess people have been known to lick their plates, so we're clearly not going to do that to these either. But Anita is going to answer your question, Alicia, and probably give everybody a lot of information about what to do with these vintage dishes. Are they safe? How can you use them? What you should be aware of, all of this.
Well, Alicia,
Don't be sad, Alicia. Stick with me.
Well, this is another one of these things. I really am very sorry. I now know the stuff that I know, basically.
I didn't know. Ignorance is bliss, but then you could get lead poisoning.
It's awful because I love vintage dishes too. So years ago, I'd heard, get a lead test kit, and there's these swab test kits that you can get on Amazon and at Home Depot and other places. And it turns a particular color. You kind of initiate it with white vinegar, and then you just kind of put it on, your dishes, and it'll turn a darker color if there's lead in the dishes. And I had done this years ago. And what I had heard was, really, unless it's hand painted, it's probably okay. That's what I had heard. When I tested my plates, sure enough, all my plates tested negatively with this kit, except for one set of dishes that was English 1920s hand painted. And so, they was hand painted, so I wasn't surprised when it came up positive for lead. Well, this is what I've thought for years, but then I've been getting a lot of questions lately about the lead. So I decided to do some more research. And what I found was these swab kits, some people said, really, they're just good for testing paint. And other people said, yeah, you can use them on dishes. So there seems to be not a consensus on whether or not they're effective for testing plates. I think from what I've read, the problem is that you can get a false negative with these. So there's another type of testing for lead on plates, and it's called an XRF instrument, which apparently stands for X-ray fluorescent analyzer.
Whoa, and that's like a gamma ray gun or something.
I know, isn't that what it sounds like?
Yeah.
Now, this is the problem with this testing. It's destructive testing, which means the only way you can test your plate with this particular analyzer is to crush it up, and then you.
Oh, stop it!
So what's the point? Oh, this plate was fine, and now
darn.
It's a pile of
it together. Yeah.
rubble on my countertop. So that's the problem with this testing. And I've done so much research, and it just like some plates, they said, oh, the Franciscan dishes made in England are fine. And then another website said the Franciscan dishes made in England are not fine. So it seems like there's a big gray area, and I don't know what the truth is here. So I think the reality is, if you really want to be safe, don't use your vintage dishes to eat on, is the bottom line, unless they're white, because the white dishes apparently, from what I've read, tends not to have lead in it. But I have a large collection of vintage dishes, but I've kind of gotten to where I've gotten kind of shy about the lead issue. So I just knew I wasn't sure. So I just tend not to use them for food. And I tend to just use them for display. And then I use my newer dishes to eat off of. And if they're newer dishes in the last 10, 20 years, again, it's my understanding they're supposed to be lead free, but there may be some exceptions to that. So it's really not a straightforward, I didn't get the straightforward answer I was hoping for when I was researching this.
It is a tough one. I mean, it's, some of these plates aren't even marked. You might not even know where they're from. It's really difficult.
So, but let me add a few just thoughts about this. If you're eating something acidic, you really don't want that on the lead, because it will leach the lead out. So if something acidic is going to be a real problem on a lead plate. So if you're like, well, I want to use them, don't use them for, soups. Don't use them for wet foods. If you really want to use them and you're not worried about the lead, or you've decided to use them anyway, I would use them more for dry things, like a cake maybe, or some biscuits or something. And those are much less likely to absorb anything from the plate. Or use like a clear glass plate liner. under between your food and that pretty plate, or just use it for display.
Inevitably, with the new year come wellness goals. One very effective and easy to reach goal is to add Dose to your wellness regime. Dose is expertly formulated organic wellness shots that support your liver in one delicious drink. Formulated with ingredients clinically shown to support liver health. Potent turmeric, milk thistle, and ginger. There's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Did you know that your liver performs over 500 special functions? Since I learned all that my liver is doing, I started with Dose to support all those vital functions. I take a shot of refreshing Dose 2 times per week to combat everyday toxins from food, meds, alcohol, and unhealthy air. Since starting with Dose about a month ago, I am definitely feeling an overall improvement in my health. So if you want to give Dose a shot and invest in your health like I have, Dose is offering DTT listeners 15% off your first order, plus an additional 15% off if you subscribe for a monthly delivery. That's 30% off your first order. So go to dosedaily.co/DTT and use the code DTT. That's dosedaily.co.co/DTT and use the code DTT. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants. The plate liner is an interesting idea. Just a clear glass plate. Yeah, because Alicia and anybody else who wants to use their dishes, I mean, you can set the table. I mean, oftentimes you're going to be doing this when it's a special dinner, right? Where you're going to have the table, it's going to be set, and part of it's going to be where the people that you're inviting are going to see the table before the meal actually starts. It can be a situation. I mean, sometimes that happens at very fancy restaurants. You know, the plate is there, but then they take that plate away.
Oh, there you
and
go.
And they bring you another plate. So you could set it all, and maybe you do a plain white, large size, maybe buffet plate on the bottom, and then just take off your vintage plates. And then that, then the white plate is what the food is served on. Or as Anita's saying, like riffing off that with the idea of the clear glass plate. Well, maybe then there's a smaller bowl or something on top where if you were serving soup, or you wanted to do some sort of dessert in a little parfait glass or something like that, then you just put it on top. So it's really the vintage plates and dishes are really just decorative.
Yeah, and I think they're so beautiful. I just would not, if you love vintage dishes, go get them, but maybe use them mostly for display.
Put them on the wall.
I know. So, Alicia, I hope that was the answer you were looking for. Probably not.
Wah, wah.
I know. Okay. And it's not that I enjoy finding out this information, but I feel like,
it's a burden to know all of this.
Well, it kind of is. I feel like I've got to share it, but it's not really what I want to hear either.
Danger.
Oh, goodness.
What can you do? It's just better to know, isn't it? Right? You don't want to you don't want to be doing all these things and everything all adds up. And
it's some of it
a problem.
It's like you said, it's sometimes some people say, you know what, I'm just going to risk it. Whatever. Live dangerously. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If you're smoking 2 packs of Marlboro Day, then eat off your vintage dishes because I don't think that's going to make a difference. All right. You know, you got to decide what's right for you, but it's good to have all the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So be careful.
Yeah.
Be safe out there.
Be safe out there. We provided you with a lot of information about Christmas trees today. I hope it was new information to you and useful information to you.
Exactly. And as always, remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
I want to remind you that we are available for design consults. We take on your design dilemmas, questions, renovations, any project you want to talk about, any room, any space. We are here for you. And we really do enjoy doing these. And I think we've helped people a lot. So if you want to sign up for a consult, head to the link in the show notes. It's decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. We hope to talk to you soon.